In Docugami, individual pieces of data are called chunks. And as I hover around this document, you'll see various pieces of text light up, and each of those is an individual chunk that we've identified. I can very easily just select on those as I wish. And you'll notice there are drag handles on the edges of each chunk, and that allows us to grow or shrink a chunk according to what it is that we're looking to grab. So, for example, if I get this agreement section here and I actually want all of A and B, I can grab that and drag it down here to the bottom and get all of this and get that as one particular chunk. I can also grab chunks within chunks. So, for example, in an address, I may only want the zip code. And so to do that, I just double click inside of any chunk. And if there's a chunk in there that we recognize as a child to that parent, you'll be able to select that. In addition to hovering around and clicking, we've also provided a series of tools that can help you navigate between chunks, particularly chunks that are either very small or very large. So for example, here we have the previous chunk, which will let me go to each chunk before, and it will let me go to each chunk after. I can also grow this selection. So if we think of this as a child to a parent, I can grow the selection into the parent, which is the entire address, or I can go back down to one of the children of that, in this case, just the street address. When I select a chunk in Docugami, you'll see that it appears on the right-hand column in a card. And we'll go over these cards in detail in another video, but I want to point out at the top of each card, there is a tag. So every chunk that we find within your document, we will assign a tag to if we're able to. In this case, you can see that it is assigned this one as a tag, this agreement. Now, while we do a pretty good job of figuring out what that should be called, you as a user have complete autonomy to change these to whatever you might want to. So in this case, let's say this agreement doesn't really make much sense to me. It's simply taken the first two words of this particular clause. So in this case, I can double click on this and it'll give me a few alternate tags or recent tags, even if I have any. But in this case, I'm just going to say a section and hit enter. And that will now reassign for this particular clause the tag a section. Now, what's more important is that Docugami is now looking through the rest of the documents in this doc set, looking for this clause, and if it finds it, it will name that to a section as opposed to this agreement. Obviously, the topic of chunks is a fairly broad one, as they are the unit in Docugami that you will work with most when working with your data. So this has just been a brief overview of chunks, but you will find much more information about how to work with them in future videos.